Welcome back to Living Local. There is something about plants and flowers in particular that can boost the mood. In fact, science backs that up. Rutgers researchers found that flowers have a remarkable power to improve emotional health. Simply being in the presence of flowers was found to elevate mood significantly, measurably increase feelings of life satisfaction, and promote positive social behavior. A local society knows this to be true. I am here with Marsha Whitmore. She is with the Illowa Orchid Society. She's the vice president. Thank you so much for being here, Marsha.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely. So how did this society get started?
Actually, we started in 1972 with a small group of people that were enthused about orchids. And at the time, the club grew, lots of interest. We had several members and participated in growing seminars and lots of activities like that. And over the years, we've expanded somewhat. This is our 44th Orchid Show. And we've held it in several places in the past year, and this year we've been at the Quad City Botanical Center. It's just an excellent partnership. We do a little volunteer work down there, and we love that. And we've repotted their orchid collection, and they in turn are having our show. And it turns out to be just a perfect place for an orchid show. The orchid show is free. It is coming up week after next. It's the 16th and the 17th of March. Admission is free. You can just walk in and enjoy it. I brought a lot of varieties of orchids.
Let's check these out.
Yeah, I think the tallest one, the pink one that you see, is one that's commonly sold in all of the big box stores now. And a lot of people buy them, take them home as house plants. And they're easy to grow. That's the Phalaenopsis orchid or the moth orchid. And likes low light, kept moist, moderate humidity, and if you let it get cool in the fall, it will initiate new spikes. A lot of people think of the orchid as being the Cattleya, the flower that you give to your great aunt.
Right.
And I brought one plant. It's the lower pink one.
Okay,
and
so this one right here.
Yeah, that's a familiar orchid. Those are a little bit more difficult to grow. They like a lot more light. Then I brought some unusual ones too. The white one in the front is a lady slipper. It's not a native orchid. There are native lady slippers, but this one is from Southeast Asia, and this particular one is a hybrid. Behind it is an even more difficult one to grow. It's a dendrobium, and it needs some special conditions. But if you're interested in growing orchids, you can come to the show. We'll have plenty of people there to give you advice. Orchids will be for sale. There are wonderful displays. They're not just arranged as potted plants. They're actually put in displays to look as natural as possible. We've gotten a little bit of local publicity nationally too. I watercolor, and we're going to have a display of artwork there as well. This particular watercolor that is on the table right now was one that was shown in our Illowa, or rather our American Orchid Society magazine. My watercolors are going to be displayed there once a month all year long, so that's giving us a little additional boost too.
And Marsha, okay, what is it about orchids that first fascinated you? What makes them special?
Well, actually, I had grown in the 60s and 70s, I had grown African violets. And my husband brought home an orchid plant. And I tried to grow it, and it was successful. It bloomed. And I was just amazed by it. I watched the buds open and just thought it was the most beautiful thing. And then, of course, it's like a disease. You get one, you get two, you get three. And I ended up growing plants in my basement under fluorescent lights. I had a nice room that was cool, and I could keep the temperature the way I wanted it, warm during the day and cool at night. So I had lots of orchids in the basement. Then in 1984, we built a greenhouse. So I'm really hooked on orchids now and have been for a long time.
So you started with the growing. How did you transition from growing the orchids to painting them?
Actually, I taught. I was a teacher. I started teaching years ago and just retired here several years ago, and I taught art. And I'd always loved to paint. I didn't have a lot of time when I was teaching. Once I retired, I really had a lot of time to do that. So I've really concentrated on doing a lot of painting.
And Marsha, I understand that you are the longest serving member of this society and also very accomplished grower and painter. So what's the most rewarding part of what you do?
I think it's just the friendship. The people that grow orchids throughout the country and the world, for that matter, we all communicate and we all share interests. We share growing and we share the beauty of the plants. That, I think, is really the best part of growing orchids.
And Marsha, at the event that's upcoming, obviously there will be beautiful orchids for sale, on display, also artwork. So what kind of artwork can people expect?
There should be a pretty good variety. We've had locally some ceramics, we've had some oil paintings, we've had quilt work, a lot of interesting kinds of artwork, and a lot of it will be for sale too.
A lot of mediums there, and the artwork will actually be judged. So
yes.
What does a judge look for when they're kind of looking at these pieces of art?
Well, there's actually two aspects to judging an orchid show. The first is ribbon judging. And teams of judges, there's usually 2 or 3 judges on each team that are accredited by the American Orchid Society, and then a couple of volunteers that go along and help. And they have a certain group of plants, for example, all the Phalaenopsis to judge. One group does that, another group does all the lady slippers. After they have chosen the best, first, second, and third place plants, then they move on with just the American Orchid Society judges who pick the very best plants in the display, and then they're taken back and judged very quietly in a room off to one side so that they can determine whether they meet the criteria of getting an American Orchid Society award.
Now, Marsha, if someone is interested in growing orchids, obviously going to this event is a great way to kind of see a variety and talk to experts. What if someone wants to take it a step further and get some more information on top of that? Where could they go?
They can contact me. I am easy to contact through our homepage online, and it can be easily accessed just by Googling Illowa Orchid Society. Our meetings are held the first Wednesday of every month at Dear Wyman Carriage House, and we always have a program. We always have a raffle, so we have usually 8 plants there that you can buy tickets inexpensively and hopefully get a plant to take home. We also have refreshments and a lot of fellowship, so it's an interesting meeting.
Wonderful, Marsha. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing about the orchids. They are stunning, and the event sounds like a wonderful experience.
It is. It's great.
Wonderful. All right. The Illowa Orchid Society Spring Show is March 16th and 17th at the Quad City Botanical Center. If you have not been to that center yet, you have to. It is stunning. All the information on the show, you can go to aos.org. We'll also have these details posted on ourquadcities.com. More Living Local blooms after this.